mid 30s, late 30s, I had achieved what I thought, success was times, 1,000.
Yeah.
The big houses, the cars, the boats, the planes, all that kind of stuff. In tandem with that, my substance abuse increased.
This is back to your story.
Yeah, you know what's crazy, JW? First off, I sincerely appreciate you coming on the show. The way that I found out about you guys was we had Jason Ellis on the podcast.
Okay,
He
yeah.
does the Hawk
Right.
First Wolf podcast, right?
Right.
And he comes in and drinks one of those, and I'm like, what the fuck is that, man? And so he starts explaining it to us, and I was just like so blown away because I think obviously like the logo and the blue bottle, I remember seeing them in stores before, but I had no idea what it was. And then I kind of went down a rabbit hole and tested it out myself, and I enjoyed the way that it assisted me in my life, and just I appreciate people putting out quality products and standing by them. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Actually, there's I've been contacted by quite a few podcasters that will not record a podcast without having their feel free first.
How does that make you feel? Like you created a product and it is loved by many.
Yeah, it's a wonderful feeling. I mean, especially some of the stories that I hear from men and women.
Yeah.
About how it's changed things in their life for the better.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any better than that.
Use code BTYS, save $40 and get free shipping. Go get it. For you, before we kind of dive down the feel free rabbit hole, like where does your story start? Where did you grow up?
So I'm originally from Texas,
All right.
Dallas.
Nice.
Was in the oil and gas business. Not inherited oil and gas business, but started out as a laborer in the field. Didn't go to college. This was in early '80s, and it was amazing how much money you could make even just being a laborer then. As the boom was going on, soon followed by a crash, but a boom at that time.
For sure.
And I went out in the fields and started working, and very quickly I spent time talking to the geologists and the engineers and the owners, the business owners that were out there, and started figuring out the game. Yeah. And was able to figure out, kind of a scam that was going on.
I love a good scam.
And I took advantage of it. And that's how I started my own company, exploration company. And, of course, the first few wells were successful because I knew they would be.
Yes.
And, it just can't continue to grow from there. And by the time I was in my mid 30s, late 30s, I had achieved what I thought, success was times, 1,000.
Yeah.
The big houses, the cars, the boats, the planes, all that kind of stuff. But in tandem with that, my substance abuse increased.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely, when you have issues with anything, the more money you make, the more access you have to it, the bigger the issue can get.
Yeah, I grew up, as I said, my family wasn't in the oil and gas business. And they weren't, they were okay, but they weren't, wealthy by any means. Not like, some of the people I saw around me who I thought that's the life. And I started, hanging out with a few of them and older gentlemen, that had been very successful in the oil and gas business. And I think the general model or mold was, work hard and play harder.
Yeah.
In hindsight, they were all functioning alcoholics.
That's
and I just learned from a very young age that, that's what you did. I think also I grew up in a very, very distant family. When I say distant, not loving at all.
Yeah.
And I didn't develop really good social skills, and I had social anxiety. Didn't really feel comfortable in my own skin. And to this day, I remember the first time I had a drink of alcohol. I went from feeling, really at odds with myself to feeling like the life of the party.
Yeah.
And it was it was love at first sight.
Yeah. I can completely relate and understand to that feeling that you're saying. And I think people that are listening that deal with that on a day-to-day basis, when you find something like alcohol, opiates, whatever the hell it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
That takes that away and allows you to be who you think you should be, right? You can find yourself in some strange places. For you, when you got into the oil industry, had you already started drinking and all that?
I started drinking when I think the first drink that I had was 16.
Yeah. Yeah. Was it pretty quick when kind of grabbed you pretty quickly?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like I said, to this day, I remember exactly where I was and what I had to drink, my very first drink.
What was it?
It was a Chivas and soda.
Okay.
With lemon.
Okay.
And I remember, I can't remember the name of the bar, but I remember the bar. I mean, I remember the setting and all of that being there. This was when, the drinking age there was 18.
Wow.
You could get into, full liquor bar at 18. And, I was 16 years old.
Yeah, so you were able to find your way in there.
I was big when I was younger, so, they didn't care.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, from that time, how old were you when you started on the, into the oil industry?
I started right out of high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a hard work.
It is hard work. It's an interesting bit, it's a very cyclical, business.
Yeah.
But, I fell in love with it early on and was very successful and.
What did your friends and family around you think, especially, growing up in a family that was distant?
Well, I mean, that's just it. When I was either 16 or 17, I moved out of the house.
Okay.
And got my own place and supported myself and never really had much interaction with them after that.
Where do you think your drive comes from, especially growing up in, like a broken home? A lot of people can find themselves in some, different places.
I think that because I didn't have that family connection, I was able to focus on other things.
Yeah.
And those other things was work. I've told people many times, still do, that, I may not be the smartest person in the room, but I usually can outwork anyone. I mean, like this morning, I started at 3:00.
Damn.
So, I put in normally I'll put in anywhere from, 12 to 14-hour days every day.
Do you ever take time off to relax?
It's interesting because I don't really have any hobbies.
Okay.
I like to work out. I work out in the mornings, but and I do kind of a wellness routine, cold plunge, sauna, all that kind of stuff every day. But it's not like I drag myself out of bed in the morning. I really enjoy building things.
Yes.
I've had kind of a long, strange trip going from oil and gas to fintech and now to consumer packaged goods. But I've enjoyed all of it. I like learning new industries. I like, building teams, especially international.
Yeah.
And, I just like to see things get done.
So that is what drives you. That's what wakes you up.
Yeah. People like, you should play golf. You should do this and that. And, I've gone out and it's like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
It's boring.
Yeah. No, you should do what makes you happy. Fuck
Yeah.
what anyone else says. If that's what you like to do, go do it. Right. If this is what makes me happy, this is what I'm going to do and continue to do it. And you're obviously, you look like you're in good shape and take good care of yourself. And We're big fans of sauna and cold plunge. I have one here too, and you know, it's important. But I mean, life goes by in a blink of a fucking eye.
It does.
Do what makes you happy. Don't do what other people tell you to do, right? And I think so many people in life get caught in the rat race, right? And it's like, sometimes if there are people like yourselves that live a life on their own terms, right? You just said to me that you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. What drives you to wake up every single morning? Or I don't know if you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning every day, but what drives you?
Usually between 3 and 4. I mean, I just wake up. I mean, my mind is thinking about, you know, things that, you know, ways that I can move the ball down the field.
Yeah.
And I wake up and I'm just, you know, wide awake and spinning, and, you know, I get up and get after it.
Wow. What time do you go to bed?
Usually around between 9 and 9:30.
Okay.
Early.
Yeah. I mean, but you also wake up early.
Yeah.
Right. So, it would be terrible if you told me that you went to bed at 12, right, and woke up at 3 or 4. You would not be able to live
I can't do that 3 or 4 hours sleep like some people say they do.
Screw that, man.
I don't know that that's good for you.
No, it's definitely not. I mean, Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher prided themselves on you know, sleep when I'm dead. You know, 4 hours of sleep every night. And well, you know, unfortunately, look what happened to Ronald Reagan with dementia and everything.
There's some research out there that is linking, you know, sleep to early onset dementia.
I would definitely I've definitely seen those studies, and that's why I just mentioned that. It makes a lot of sense. If you don't give your brain and your body time to rest, well, what is going to happen, right?
Yeah, I still don't think we fully understand what all's happening when we're sleeping.
Yes.
I mean, this thing of dreams and all that, it's, you know, your mind reorganizing data. And I think there's just a lot going on there that is helping you. It's just not about rest.
Yes.
It's about mental health also.
I definitely agree. You know, it's kind of crazy that you say that, because, you know, the times when I don't get a lot of sleep, I'm off.
Yeah.
I'm off.
Yeah.
Right. The days that I get a good amount of sleep, like good, healthy sleep, I'm firing on all cylinders. Right. And so I think those things are very, very important. And you're right. We don't know, we know a lot about a lot of things, but we don't know a lot about the human brain. Right. And what happens when you dream, and what really, what does it mean? And like you said, with mental health and all of those things. So I definitely understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I spent some time studying neuroscience, and what I learned was that, you know, the way I had been living my life, I prided myself on quick decisions.
Yeah.
And what I learned is that's why I was making a lot of bad decisions, because the brain is, you know, basically two separate brains. You have the old brain and the new brain. The old brain is the reptilian brain, which is fight or flight.
Yes.
Very fast, but not much, you know, processing going on of wisdom, or whatever you want to call it, information. New brain, extremely good at holding a lot of data, but extremely slow processor. So, you know, you have to learn how to use both.
Yeah.
And I would say in our society now, the old brain is becoming less and less needed.
Yeah.
But I think one of the main problems, I think, in society is that most people are running around just using their old brain, or using very little of their new brain, and then they wonder why they have problems in their life, and it's because they're running around making decisions off of fight or flight.
Yeah. What you just said resonates deep. I totally understand what you're saying. And for you, what was that shift that you went, I am done making these quick, fast decisions to?
So basically in treatment, I kind of got to a point where, you know, the alcohol, the other drugs had kind of dropped off, but the alcohol had, you know, taken over my life, and really bad things were happening, you know, car crashes and DUIs, and saying things to people I shouldn't say, and just all kinds of things like that. And I went off to 90-day inpatient treatment, and it's really the first time in my adult life that I had ever not worked, and that I'd ever really took time to think about me.
Yeah.
And the classes and stuff there, the sessions and all that were fine. I think where I really, it was an interesting treatment center. It's a treatment center in Atlanta that they specialize in commercial airplane pilots and doctors.
Okay.
And I was living with 3 doctors, and we're sitting there one night, and we're watching The Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe.
Great movie.
And it's kind of towards the end of the movie where he's walking along with his arch nemesis, and the guy goes, do you still see them? And he looks over and he sees them, and they're waving at him, and all that. And he looks back and he said, yeah, I still see them, but I've learned not to engage with them. And I don't know what it was, but it just dawned on me that I'm no different than he is. Yeah. I have this thing in my head that's talking to me continuously, telling me that I can keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to have different results. I'm going to figure out how to control this. And I've been doing this for, over a decade, almost 2 decades, and I can't. And that's the definition of insanity. If you keep thinking you're going to have, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. And my thought was that, I may not have as serious a form of it as he has. I don't see them, but I damn sure hear them. Yeah. And then I thought about it some more, and I thought, I've spent my entire life believing everything I thought.
Wow.
And acting on it.
Yes.
I mean, if I thought something is like, well, that must be real. And what I've come to realize is that a big part of what I think is not real. It's just noise. It's just, things spinning and that was a big, big thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very hard going through those experiences to come to that realization and then to successfully drown out the noise.
Yeah. But while I was in treatment, to answer your question specifically, I read a book called The Hour Between Dog and Wolf.
Okay.
And it's actually a book about trading. But in that, the guy describes in layman's terms the new brain, old brain, and all of that. And he said, if you don't believe what I'm saying, here's an experiment. When you get an email in from someone that's, charged, just fire off a response very quickly, but set it aside. Come back the next morning and read the email and read how you responded. And it's amazing because something that you thought somebody was attacking you really wasn't that. And then your response is just, it's attack.
Yeah.
And and then you send that. If you had sent that to them, then they're going to attack you back, and it's going to escalate and turn into something else. And it's really amazing how, if you re-edit that, your response is totally different, and their response is going to be different, and you keep something from happening that probably would have been bad. And I've done that numerous times.
Yeah. So
now, if I have a decision that I feel like is fairly important, I purposely will slow play it. And what I've found is that sometimes the answer comes weeks later.
Wow.
It takes a long time to fully process all the different scenarios and and try to come up with what is the best path. And it just, to this day, when I do that, it's I enjoy that because it's an interesting exercise to do with yourself, and it's just a better way to live life for me anyway.
You hit the nail on the head. I have been guilty too many times in my life sending those emails.
Yeah. I always used to. I mean, I would just.
Nothing comes good from that.
No. What's amazing is, like I said, some of them, when you go back and look at it, you're like, I totally misunderstood what the person was saying. You know, email's tough because you can't tell tone sometimes.
Yes.
But you read it the second time, you're like, man, that wasn't even what he was. It wasn't his point, or that wasn't his question, and I just took off on a tangent and attacked him.
Yeah. How influential was this choice in your life to getting you to where you went from there?
Well, I mean, I came out of treatment, and my life was infinitely better, but I still had the same issue that I had before I went in, or early in life before I started drinking, and that's that. I just didn't feel comfortable around people.
Yeah.
I liked animals.
I got it.
But I didn't like being around people, especially larger groups of people. I mean, I just kind of isolated myself, and I started realizing that if I don't find a cure for this or something to treat it, that I'm going to go back to doing what I was doing before, because I just can't live like this, not long term. So I started looking for social lubricants and euphorics and all of that, and I went out in the market and I tried everything I get my hands on that's advertised as that. None of it really did anything for me. And then I tried all the illegal stuff.
Yep.
Microdoses of this and that, and all of that either did too much, or I couldn't do it on a regular basis because it was too hard on my system.
Yeah.
I was looking for something that, I could feel comfortable socially, enhanced somewhat, and do it, throughout the day, every day.
Yeah.
Before working, not feel uncomfortable driving a car or, going, into a business meeting or whatever.
Absolutely.
And I just couldn't find it. So I'm a research fanatic, and I started researching social lubricants and things that people had used around the world for thousands of years, different societies. And I found a handful of different plants. I'd had an experience with Kava, decades before, when I was in my late 20s, early 30s. And it was kind of an interesting experience in Vanuatu. And then when I was doing the fintech company after the oil and gas, I was over in Southeast Asia, lived there for a few years, and I came across Kratom while I was there. Those things help, but they weren't really what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So I started bringing in, Kana from South Africa, coca leaves from Central America, all these different things that, I was finding, in my research. And again, none of them by themselves got me. I was looking for that feeling I had the first time I drank alcohol.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find it. And then I got the crazy idea to start mixing stuff together. And I set up a little informal lab in my house, in my kitchen, and spent 2 years doing different combinations, different percentages, different strains. I mean, like Kava, there's 200 strains of Kava alone, kind of like cannabis.
Yeah.
And they are vastly different. And I finally found the combination for me that worked. I had a few friends that were, I was using as guinea pigs also.
Yeah.
And the same thing, when they tried this, they're like, oh my gosh, you need to sell this. I mean, it really wasn't my intention to get into consumer packaged goods. It was strictly for myself. And, they said, man, you need to sell this stuff. And
Wow.
the rest is history.
Wow, that's incredible, man. Like that's what I was going to ask you is like when you were going down that path, right? Did you think about one day selling it? But you answered that question already. With you trying to find the right social lubricant at any time during that experience, did you feel like I need to go grab a drink again?
Oh, I to this day, I still have. They've become less and less.
Yes.
It seems like one of the major triggers is when I travel. If I'm in the airport,
Yeah.
that's that walking by the airport bar, the warm light, the sound, all of that triggers it. I mean, I still think to this day, that, like in A Beautiful Mind, they're still there.
Yes, they are.
They haven't gone away, and I think that was where I was struggling so much, as I was trying to get it to go away,
Yeah.
as opposed to just learning not to engage with it and accepting that it's not going to go away.
Yes.
They've quietened down over the years, especially since, Feel Free, but they're still there. I mean, I still think about it on occasion. Wouldn't it be nice to have a glass of wine or,
Yeah, absolutely.
and I quickly process that
Yes.
of, okay, this is what's going to happen. That glass of wine is going to lead to, cocktails, and then it's going to lead to, and I was a binge drinker, which is, I was a functioning binge drinker, and that I would go for maybe a month or so and not screw up, but then, and I never knew when it was coming. It just out of nowhere, I would take off on a tangent and I'd stay drunk for 3 or 4 days until I couldn't handle it, until I just basically,
Yeah.
couldn't physically handle it anymore. And usually something bad happened
Yes.
in the process.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to find a way out, but you do make a very valid point. Is like it never goes away, right?
No,
never addiction never goes away, but it's understanding how to live with it and quiet those voices, right, down in your head. For you, when you created Feel Free, was it putting it all together, especially with the way government is and everything like that? I know back in like 2014 with Kratom and all of that, like was it hard to bring it to market? I mean, I know everything is legal.
Yeah, it's all legal, except, Kratom is not legal. It's banned in 6 states.
Yes.
To answer your question, it really wasn't that hard because it's not regulated.
Yes.
We're actually pushing for regulation. We've now got regulation passed specific to Kratom in 8 states. We're trying to get a federal bill introduced, and 21 more states that are in the process of trying to pass regulation. It's interesting because I also learned a lot about plants and I think I learned more about why alcohol is a very effective social lubricant.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to dose it. It's easy to step over that line. It's very similar to me in cocaine.
Yeah.
Cocaine's very hard. It was very, very effective.
Yes.
But it's very hard to not step over that line and just keep doing another. And what I come to realize is that of these social lubricants that have been used for thousands of years, alcohol is an outlier. It's the only one that's highly processed. All the rest of them were used in their native form, like teas and things like that, just ground leaf, and even the kratom in Southeast Asia, they've never consumed it any other way other than just in like a tea. Unfortunately, we get a hold of it.
Yes.
In our infinite wisdom, and it's exactly like coca leaves and cocaine. Coca leaves are wonderful.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the best plants. I think it's better than coffee, than caffeine, as far as what it will do for you. It's also from a safety standpoint.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the baby got thrown out with the bathwater, because what we did is it's got 52, 53 alkaloids. We took, solvents, basically gasoline, and extracted 2 of those and created, cocaine.
That's incredible.
And unfortunately, they've done the same thing with kratom.
Yeah.
Exactly the same. It's got 50 some alkaloids, and they've taken solvents or CO2, and they extract out a couple of the alkaloids predominantly, and it becomes more about getting high
Yes.
than it is about productivity enhancement. Now, because if you go into rural Southeast Asia, if you're driving along, you'll see these little kind of wooden shacks, and they have bags, little plastic bags with straws sticking in them. That's their Starbucks. Those are Kratom teas, and the workers grab those, throughout the day and drink that to be able to, crush it out in the field 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, here we've turned it into, a get high thing. So, in knowing that, and also doing some testing on myself, blood chemistry, all of that, I decided with Feel Free to use it in its native form. And I think to this date, we're still the only shot on the market that's not an extract.
Wow, that's incredible. What made you make that conscious decision to not do it like everyone else?
Well, one of the things is that I actually did some of the extracts early on when I was, exploring different ways of doing this, and I very quickly saw elevated liver enzymes.
Yes.
There's something about these other 40-some alkaloids and all the fiber and everything else that balances it in your body, and keeps you from, stepping over that line.
Yeah, because that's definitely something that I've heard before. People using Kratom is that it can cause issues to the liver. Now, I don't know if that's hearsay, but people that I talk to that have used Feel Free, they don't have any issues.
Yeah, I mean, when you go online and you research Kratom, it'll scare you to death. You
Just
got
like anything.
Mayo Clinic saying, it's going to kill you and this and that. And there is some basis behind that with these extracts and what, people are over consuming, because you're able to get 1,000 times more of these certain alkaloids in your system than you normally would. Just like with cocaine versus coca leaf. I mean, people have been using coca leaves in Central and South America for, 2,000 years, 3,000 years.
Yeah.
They start when they're in their teens and consume them until their 80s. They never have issue one.
They chew it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always wanted to try that.
And then here, most people that I know, including myself, that start on cocaine, it doesn't end very well.
No.
It's usually a fairly short ride.
Yeah.
And the same thing with alcohol. It's very effective. It's processed to be more effective.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, your body doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And you can get too much in your system very quickly. It's short acting, so you keep stacking it.
Yes.
And next thing you know, you got problems.
Yeah. What made you go down the route to find, because I know you were mixing different things, but like Kratom and Kava, like those two together, what exactly happens?
So Kratom, as I said, historically it's a productivity enhancer.
Yes.
It's a tree in Southeast Asia. It's in the coffee family, but it's instead of using caffeine, it's using alkaloids, and it's extremely good at providing endurance, productivity, focus, and feel good at the same time.
Yes.
You'll see a lot out there about, it's an opioid. It's not an
It's
opioid.
not, yeah, I know that.
But it reacts with the same receptors that opioids do. The difference is that opioids bind to those receptors and just keep stacking up, whereas the alkaloids strike those receptors and move on. The other big difference, probably the biggest difference is, the most important, is that it doesn't have a respiratory suppressant.
Okay.
And that's really what kills people on opioids. They do too much of it, and they stop breathing.
Yeah.
And then they die.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
it.
I'm not being technical
No.
about it. That's exactly what happens. And you full leaf kratom, you're not going to overdose on it.
Yeah.
You might throw up if you do, massive amounts of it, but you're not going to overdose on it because it doesn't have the respiratory suppressant.
Wow, that's incredible. And also, is it because it doesn't bind, it just goes through your system a lot faster.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So that, right, the kratom mixed with the kava. What does the kava do?
So the kratom is for the productivity.
Yeah.
The kava, to me, that's what I'm really focused on is kava. I mentioned those in Fiji. We're putting in farms in Fiji, and I think kava is going to be one of the biggest substances, plants in the world in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because I think the biggest issue in the world is stress and anxiety. Whether that be social anxiety, kids, work, money, food, whatever. And you can see that whenever you talk to somebody. If you talk to anybody in depth for more than 30 minutes, they will describe to you, without you prompting, some type of stress or anxiety.
Yeah.
They'll tell you about something in their life that and I think it's gotten worse because we're disconnected from nature. We have information overload. We're moving faster. We're eating a lot of junk, and we're running around stressed out.
Yeah.
And because of that, we're also running around self-medicating. And I don't think most people think that they are, because they're not, some people are. They're getting prescription drugs to do that. But sugar, a lot of these other things that people are over-consuming are, what they do is they treat stress and anxiety. Yes. People think sugar is about taste. It's not really, because when you consume sugar, you feel different.
Yeah.
Very quickly. It's a very effective thing at treating stress and anxiety. The problem of it is it's short acting.
Yeah.
And you do it more and more and more. And I was reading a stat yesterday. It's estimated it's killing 186,000 people a year worldwide.
Sugar is.
Which, lifestyle diseases of, diabetes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't think most people connect the dots. And then you have alcohol, which same thing, but alcohol is killing 3 or 4 million people a year.
Yeah.
I think it's a leading cause of death in people between like 35 and 45. I mean, it's accidents and things like that. So people are running around self-medicating with these things that work. But the thing about kava is, in its natural form, noble kava, there's never been one verified death. Never. Not one.
Not one.
There was a situation in Germany where there was some non-noble kava that got contaminated, that there were some liver issues. And unfortunately, they overreacted, and it was backed by the alcohol companies.
Of course.
Because it was taking off in Europe. I mean, it was like rocket ship. And they, once this happened, it'd be like here, we have these things with romaine lettuce, the salmonella. It'd be like saying, "Ooh, let's just
ban it."
Nobody can ever eat romaine lettuce again."
Yeah.
It's just insane.
Yes.
But that's actually what they did. But the thing about kava is, and I've spent a lot of time doing kava ceremonies in Fiji and Vanuatu and areas over the last few years. And it is amazing how effective it is at treating stress and anxiety. The people there that consume kava on a regular basis, which is most of them, they have just a completely different demeanor to them. They're very peaceful, very, open, very loving. I had an interesting experience in Vanuatu a couple trips ago. There's a French billionaire there that his family's been in the Pacific Islands for generations, owns mining and shipping and, all kinds of stuff. And we were sitting there, having some kava talking, and he goes, I never really thought about it, but he said, the islands that are alcohol forward have violence and crime and theft, all this kind of stuff. He goes, the islands that are Kava forward, he goes, you don't have hardly any of that.
No way.
And he goes, I'll take it one step further. He goes, I know of one island in the Solomons, he said, that was Kava forward, and they shifted over to alcohol forward. And he said, all hell broke loose.
That's incredible. You know what I fear, though, is that once it starts taking off, they're going to ban it.
They'll try.
They're going to do what they always fucking do.
So what we're doing to stop that is we're doing the foundation work right now. Kava's been consumed here for a long, long, long time.
Yeah.
We're doing what they call the GRAS certification, which is basically grandfathering it in as a food additive versus a dietary supplement.
Okay.
Once we have that, and we have all the information that would stand up in court to. Once we have that, there's really not much they can do because they can't. The only other way that they could attack it is safety.
Okay.
And it's safe.
Yeah, it sounds like it's very safe.
Yeah.
What is the do you mind putting that in your pocket or just turning the vibration off? No worries. What is the best way to consume kava?
So the natives consume it it's like a tea. They grind up the root. It's a pepper plant, grows throughout the Pacific Islands, and the roots are the part that you consume. So they grind it, they dry the roots, grind it up, kind of make a tea out of it. But it can be put into anything. You can put it into, potato chips. You can put it into cookies, whatever. And it still will do the same thing. That's what's got me excited.
Yeah.
Is that I think that as opposed to sugar, you start putting in kava.
Yeah.
You don't have the calories. You don't have all the health issues, and you treat the same thing.
Is it sweet?
It's not sweet. It's got a pungent flavor to it. It's kind of like a lot of things that are if it's ginger or whatever.
Yeah.
But we've figured out how to minimize that.
Okay.
And I ultimately see it being in lots of different things because people don't think about this, but Coca Cola was the original functional drink.
Yep.
Coca-Cola started out, it was cocaine, cola nut, and sugar. 3 very functional ingredients. The cocaine, actually Coca-Cola was behind the removal of the cocaine.
Of course they were.
Most people don't realize Coca-Cola has the only license or company that they're associated with to bring coca leaves into the U.S.
Isn't that crazy?
They actually have their own farm in Hawaii that grows it.
Yep.
And they decocanize it.
It's so crazy. It's literally so fucking crazy.
And this company's making, not Coca-Cola, it's making billions of dollars because then it takes the other part and sells it into the medical community.
For things like Novocaine
Exactly.
and things like that.
Yeah. They have a monopoly. The government's gave a monopoly of controlling, cocaine into the U.S. in different forms. And all that's proprietary and black box and, what they're doing with that. But it's a very effective, again, people drink it and they think, ooh, it tastes great and all that. And it tastes good, but it's more about how it makes you feel when and their advertising is kind of around that, people clinking the glasses in love, and it works.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
it works. Yeah.
It also, has, downside.
How many grams of sugar is in Coca-Cola?
There's like 30.
It's insane. And we were looking up the other day. It's like you should only have like 24 grams of sugar every single day.
Yeah, 39 grams on average in a 12-ounce Coca-Cola can.
Yeah.
That is insane. Yeah, that's so much sugar, man.
And we're supposed to consume 23 grams a day.
Plus all the other stuff that they put in there that they don't disclose.
100%.
They don't have to because
Why?
it's a proprietary formula that they've held secret for long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I actually went through their laboratory in Atlanta, Georgia, and there was hundreds of white coats in there, doing experiments.
You're like, you're making Coca Cola.
Creating Diet Coke and Coke Zero, and figuring out ways to remove the sugar, but retain the stickiness of it
Yes.
and retain the feel good of it.
Yes.
And they've done an amazing job of that.
I mean, the Coke Zero.
Now Diet Coke outsells regular Coke worldwide.
That's, man, I can't tell you the last time I had a Diet Coke. But that being said,
I got to where I was drinking at one time probably 7 or 8 of them a day, and I decided to stop.
Yeah.
And I had horrible withdrawals from it.
That's incredible?
I mean, I had headaches that Tylenol or Advil or anything wouldn't touch for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And just the mental fog and just, and that's all this other stuff that's in there.
You're not the only person I've heard that from. I've heard from multiple people that used to drink a lot of Coca Cola or Diet Coke, and they quit, and they had headaches for weeks.
Yeah. It feels like somebody's cutting your head open.
Yeah. Yeah. With when did you launch Feel Free?
We launched in May of 2020.
May. Good timing.
Yeah.
When you launched, right? What was the game plan? Like, how did you guys get the message out?
We really didn't. We put it in, 150 or so stores here in California. And it was really interesting because we put it out there, in this little blue bottle, and we didn't do any marketing. And it took off. And what fascinates me about that is the fact that even if somebody picked it up and spun it around, if you go down the street and ask people, probably 8 out of 10 of them don't know what those ingredients are. They've never heard of them before.
Yeah.
So it strictly was the name, the packaging was enough to get people to, say, I'm going to, curious, I'm going to give it a try.
That's incredible, man. Like that to think, and because they sell for like $10 a piece, in the store. Yeah. So it's like, it's not cheap, you know. It's a good time, but to do no marketing and just kind of put it out there. How did you guys get it into 150 stores right off the rip?
I just went out and did it myself. Knocked on doors and then it took off fairly quickly, and the word gets around.
Yes, very much.
We're in about almost 11,000 stores.
That's incredible.
And we're between offline and online, almost 2 million servings a month.
Holy shit!
It's just been a rocket ship.
Can you believe it?
No.
That's incredible.
I say that. I say that.
Shit.
I say that, and early on, I went to Austin and met with a guy. One of my investors is in Austin. We were looking to raise a little bit more money, and he said, "You need to come meet this guy because this guy's, he's not in this space, but he's in the medical field, and he's made huge money. He's very smart." So we go meet him at the country club there and for breakfast, and I give him the deck and I'm giving him my spiel, and he never says a word, no emotion, no nothing. And I get done and I'm like, well, you hadn't asked any questions yet, what do you think? And he goes, the whole time you were talking, he goes, I was thinking. And he said, I can't think of one thing that will change somebody's mood in 30 minutes or less that hasn't become worth billions of dollars. He goes, whether that's, aspirin, Red Bull, 5 Hour, whatever it is, alcohol. He said, if you actually can change somebody's mood, change their state in 30 minutes or less, he said, it's, then it's about producing enough of it.
Yeah.
And I think he very effectively boiled it down to, I think, again, we put it in the stores, people tried it, they're like, they took it to their friends and said, man, you got to try this.
Yeah.
And it just organically grew from that.
Has it been a challenge to produce that many in such a short period of time?
It has. So we put our own, we're very unusual in that we have our own production plant in Tulsa.
Nice.
And then we also built out our own national distribution system. So we're totally vertically integrated, including now with the farms we're putting in Fiji. We're totally vertically integrated.
Was this something that you, from the beginning, wanted to do? Like make it completely integrated, self-sufficient?
When I was in the oil and gas business, I did that, and I saw the benefit of doing it. If you can work long enough and manage all of it, and I could see where each piece of it's fingers in the pie. They get and you lose control and shenanigans going on and this and that. So yeah, I wanted to build it that way.
Yeah.
And it's been a big part, I think, also of the success is because I have, full sight of everything, full control of everything, and you can really watch the problem with co-packers is that they don't really care about the quality.
Yeah.
All they're trying to do is get it out the door, and that's not a very that's kind of scary.
Yeah. Yeah. For you, when you guys launched it and seeing the success of it, did you in mind have like ideas of coming out with other products?
Yeah, we did. I immediately started thinking of different, because what happened was when I did the thing in my house, I created different versions. I had some that that were what I call sleepy time, some that were more energizing, and so I kept those formulas.
Yeah.
And we've started releasing some of that, or we are going to be releasing some of it. We released the second version of Feel Free in about a week and a half.
Can you talk about it?
Yeah, it's
well, this will come out like around that time.
Yeah,
So,
it doesn't have kratom.
Wow.
So there's some people that just seem to be allergic to kratom. It's a very small percentage, but there's some people that do, and it's just I think all the hoopla around it and all that. I wanted to try to figure out how to mimic kratom without actually having kratom in it. And it took quite a while to do it, but we figured it out. And it's all natural ingredients. It's a group of different plants that have different characteristics that blended together mimic kratom. So
Wow.
it's still kava mainly,
Yeah.
but it's got these other plants that it's got kola nut, lion's mane, rhodiola, and MTC, things like that are blended together and create the kratom feel.
No way, man. So what's it going to be called? Is it Feel Free?
It's Feel Free, yeah.
2.0?
It's actually this one becomes classic.
Okay.
Following Coca Cola.
I love it. I love it. I love
And
it.
it'll have a black cap.
Okay.
And then the new one will be Feel Free, because we did blind sensory testing where we brought in about 50 people just off the street that had never had Feel Free before and gave them both back to back, one day, the next day. 75% selected the new over the old.
Wow.
So we feel like that probably the new is going to be the star of the show, kind of like the Diet Coke.
Yes.
So I think that we want it to be in the package that
Yeah.
is the main SKU.
Wow, that's incredible. And then you guys also came out with capsules too,
Came
right?
out with capsules. I had a lot of people saying it's hard to travel
Yeah.
with and people that didn't like the taste. I mean, it does, as you know, it has a bold taste.
I love it.
I do too, but
I
there's
love
people
it.
that just can't,
Yeah.
can't. We have people saying, I love the way it makes me feel, but I just can't hack the taste. So we created the capsules. I'm not a huge fan of the capsules because the capsules bypass the mouthfeel of Kava. I will say this, the new version capsules, I actually really like those. I've been using them on a daily basis.
Okay.
I mix them together. I mix the new capsule, like just one or two of them, with the old version,
Yeah.
and it's wonderful.
That's incredible. Now, is there like I'm not, I know there's not a limit because you said it's obviously not going to kill you, just get you sick, but like on a day-to-day basis, how much do you take?
So I take usually between 1 and 2 a day.
Yeah.
We recommend, for the average person, only 1 per day.
Yeah.
And we recommend only half a bottle per serving. I mean, it's some people are a lot more sensitive to it than others.
Yes.
But I find for myself anywhere between 1 and 2 a day, and I do it in half bottle increments throughout the day.
Okay, so I did it wrong because I drank the entire thing, but I'm a
It's
little
just,
crazy.
if you do more of it at one, it's just more euphoric.
Yeah. I mean, I absolutely enjoy it, and I love that there is something like this on the marketplace that's not illegal. A lot of people don't want to go out and get, drink for a social lubricant or do other types of things or take Adderall or whatever the fuck it is, right? And so to have something like this on the marketplace, I think I know more people need to know about it. I mean, it's fantastic hearing that you guys are selling so many bottles, but I do see like this even bigger tidal wave coming for you guys and other brands.
I think so, and like I said, I also think that what I was talking about earlier about the Kava itself into many different foods is an even bigger thing. I mean, I think that's a real social issue that we have, all this stress and anxiety, because that manifests itself into a lot of different forms. It's killing millions of people every year, and, from doing various things. That to me is what's really exciting, is that I think I'm onto something that is much larger.
Yeah. I definitely I agree with you. First off, I mean, with social media and 24-hour news and all the shit that's going on in the world, people are stressed out more than ever.
It's like the perfect storm. I think it's a combination of not being connected with nature, which is what we were designed to be.
100%.
Processed food, which is messing with our, all
the gut biome.
Yeah, and the amount of information and the speed that we're moving at, which again, I don't think that we were designed to be this way.
No, evolutionary. We are definitely not. We're still fucking, cavemen, right? It's like
we
we're
still
just
have
different.
The reptilian brain.
100%, right? And so it's like there needs to be something out there that can kind of help take the edge off.
Well, what I like about it is that I think Mother Nature made these plants, and we've lived in harmony with them for thousands of years until we get and start messing with them, like I talked about with cocaine and the extracts and things like that. But Mother Nature has, and these societies that have used it that way, have not had the issues that we're talking about here. And they've used them, effectively, and they've lived with them, and they've benefited from them. To me, that's the answer. They say don't mess with Mother Nature.
It's such it's so true. I mean, anytime, like I know for me personally, when I am out camping, when I'm out on a hike, when I'm in the wilderness, when I'm in the forest, when I'm with nature,
It's a totally different feel.
100%.
It's just like the stress just evaporates off of you, because that's where we're meant to be.
I know.
And I thought a lot about, how did we get off on this rabbit trail of synthetics? Because that's the default system.
Yes.
And I truly think, you can't patent plants. So I think very early on, these companies figured out, we can't patent a plant, but we can patent something that we, synthesize or alter. and we can build a moat around it. Then we can keep people from competing with us, and we can make more money. And I think it wasn't because there's so many plants that do so many wonderful things for you, and we got totally disconnected from that
Yep.
for so long. And I don't think it had anything to do with health.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that plants can do everything. There are situations where I'd be the first to say, yeah, I need the synthetics, but I don't think that should be the default.
Nope.
That shouldn't be your first choice.
No.
And beyond that, what I don't like is I see people that are my age, and we'll go to dinner or something, and they'll pull their pill thing out, and they'll have like 15 different things that they're taking.
Yeah.
And they're not taking that for a short period of time. Their doctor's telling you need to take that for the rest of your life.
Nope.
The statins, the this, the that,
Yep. 100%.
and it is, I think, a byproduct of the sugar overconsumption of sugar and all this other stuff, which creates these things. Okay, now you need these drugs.
You need this to regulate that, to regulate that. It's like no.
It's long-term revenue streams for them. Because
Yes.
it's not about you take this for a week or whatever. It's about you take this for the rest of your life.
100%. 100%. I talk about this all the time on the podcast. I suffer from multiple sclerosis, right? And, I wouldn't wish this upon my worst enemy, but I look at people like Christina Applegate, and I don't know her personal story, but like I know that she was diagnosed and she's not working now, and she's put on this weight, and she's struggling really hard. And I look at people like Dr. Terry Walls, who had stage 2 progressive MS. She wasn't walking. She was following the westernized protocol. Take this, to take that, to take this, right? And she just started looking into the science and research and all the different things. And she created the Walls protocol, which is based off of eating these certain types of foods and ingesting these types of things. And she went from literally being wheelchair bound to now riding 10 miles on a bike to work, 10 miles home. And, for me, I was like, I am not going to fucking get down this rabbit hole. Like I went and saw my neurologist, and they've wanted to give me, westernized medicine. And I'm not anti-Western 100%. But I'm like, no, I'm not. I need to figure this shit out on my own. Yeah. And, for me, it's like, I do have my good days. I have my bad days, but I do know other people that have MS that got on the pills, and a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, they're fucking wheelchair bound. Right. And
the thing is, you could always do that later.
You can.
It's like try this first and see, because there's some pretty amazing stories out there, of people that have done what we're talking about.
Yes.
And totally changed their lives.
110%.
It's not always going to work.
Nope.
But if it does, that's gold.
It's everything. It's everything. And so my point about Christina Applegate is like, if I was her, I'd hire the best chefs. I would fucking be getting stem cells. I would be taking these types of supplements. I would I would do all of that. And I don't know her personal story, so I don't know if she has or has not done that. But at the very least, for me, I have the sauna. I have the cold plunge. I have a strict diet.
That's a lot more work. It's much easier just to take a pill.
Fuck that though, man. I mean, him and I just ran the LA Marathon, and it's like...
But I think that's where they have the advantage is they go, ooh, if you just take this pill from now on, you'll be fine.
But you're not. You're not.
No.
You're not. You're not. And this is not to put down westernized medicine, because there was tons of shit. If I, had this or that, like I would definitely take part in that. But like, a lot, especially like all these autoimmune disorders and things that are definitely running rampant in our society. We need to look at them differently. And this is why I was so stoked to have you on, because Feel Free it helps me out a lot. And I really, from the bottom of my heart, like I truly appreciate you creating this amazing product. And I know a lot of people in that I know and in the nation absolutely love this, and we need more of that. Where do you see this all going?
We just keep producing more of it, keep selling more of it. I'm really excited about the new version coming out because this will, we're restricted. We can't get in like Whole Foods or, the more mainstream establishments. We're in convenience and liquor stores and that kind of thing. But this new version, you can put it anywhere. So I'm excited about that because that's going to allow us to expand into more mainstream demographic.
Yes.
Where I think it's really needed. Again, my real excitement is around Kava itself and what I think I can do with it.
Yeah.
And we're really gearing up to, not just here in the U.S., but worldwide. We're working on the same type of thing in Europe, in the EU. We're putting together a very elaborate team on how to educate the public.
Yes.
On what it is, what it will do, the branding, the marketing, and all of that. And I'm excited to see where we can go with that. And it's not going to be just about our products. I want to, try to get it into Frito-Lay or whoever to replace some of the stuff that I know is in there that, is causing some of these problems.
Yeah.
And at the same time, be more effective at treating what people are self-medicating for that they don't even realize that they're doing.
It's fascinating. And like you said, it's education.
Yeah.
It's huge. How is it trying to get into the EU marketplace?
It's tough right now. I mean, we're early stage. It's because of what happened I talked about earlier in Germany. We have a lot of legal wrangling to do to get it, but we'll get there. The bottom line is it's safe.
Yes.
So, it may take a lot of money and a lot of time, but eventually the truth will, prevail.
Yeah.
There's a lot of very deep pockets that don't want to see that happen.
Yeah.
But my thought is to kind of maybe show them that they actually can make money off of it too.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why I want to see it. It's not just our brands, it's in other brands too, because once they see it and it works, then they'll throw their weight behind it. And once they throw their weight behind it, it happens.
That's a fact. That's a fact. You've gone from the oil industry to fintech to consumer packaged goods.
The long, strange trip.
It's a very strange trip.
Yeah.
Out of all of those, what has brought you the most joy?
Oh, definitely this, by far. I mean, I've had people call me and just tell me incredible stories of how it's changed their life or their family's life. I mean, one of them in particular I can think of is a lady in Austin called me, and she said, I got your product, tried it. She goes, it's good. She goes, I enjoy it. But she said, what I'm calling you about is my husband. And I'm like, oh, where's this going? And she said, she said, I gave it to him and didn't tell him what it was. And this is in the evening when he come in, and she said, he's in there, and all of a sudden I hear him, he's giggling, playing with they have two little girls, and he said, one of the girls came in, and she says, what's wrong with Daddy? He said, he's playing with us, having fun. And she said, he had become kind of an asshole, isolated. And she said, and I mean, this is almost, she goes, you brought my husband back. She said, he's much more loving now. He's much more connected to the family. And I still just it doesn't get any better than that. Yeah. That's way beyond money. I mean, that's just, if you know that you're doing that, what else is there in life?
Like I said earlier, life is a blink of an eye. Do things that make you happy. Do things that the look on your face when you were telling me that story. That's what this is about.
Yeah.
If you continue to do that, good things will happen. As we start to wrap this up, man, when you leave this earth, what do you want to be remembered for?
I would like to be remembered for what I just talked about earlier with the Kava, that I was the one that figured out a better solution for all this stress and anxiety. And I think, what I'd like to do, the way we're going to market this and brand it is it's not just this in isolation. It's also get out and get reconnected with nature. Start eating, there are choices. Eat better. You know,
Yes.
it's going to be a more broad, you know, educational, because I think people need all of it.
Yes.
But to start with, I think people need a quick change
Yeah.
and get out of, you know, running around, you know, stressed to the max, making fast decisions, you know, just living almost like this hamster in a wheel.
Yeah.
And Kava will definitely do that.
You've brought up stress and anxiety so much. Why is it so important to you?
Because I realize that that's what caused all the issues in my life. I mean, the social anxiety was, you know, what I was self-medicating for. And I was doing it using alcohol, and I couldn't control it.
Yeah.
And that created, I hurt myself and a lot of other people in the process. And now I don't do that.
Have you been able to amend some of those patches?
You know, that's a whole nother
Yeah.
tangent. What I found was that I learned who, you know, the real people are, and the rest, you know, they're gone.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that you would like to share?
I think that the one question that I get the most is it addictive? And my response is, and I've always thought this, is that anything that makes you feel good can be habit forming, whether that's sugar, sex, whatever. You can, and some people are going to overindulge. That's not really, I think, the question you should ask. The question you should ask is, if I consume this on a regular basis, is it going to hurt me? Because if you find something that makes you feel good, you're going to consume it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've not seen any data that would say that, you know, unless you're just go crazy on it, which, you know, you can OD on water if you want to drink too much of it.
Happens at raves all the time.
As long as you know, keep it in check, then we've not seen any issues.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's, you know, it can't be habit forming, because anything that makes you feel good can be.
I mean, that's a fact, man. I mean, come on. There's so many things
Unless
out
you want
there.
to just go lock yourself in your closet,
No.
keep being exposed to anything. I mean, that's just life.
No. Yeah. I mean, I think that anything in life, like you said, that makes you feel good. But that's just, like you said, sex, sugar, cigarettes, weed, alcohol,
whatever. Yeah.
all of those things. But a lot of those things, when you get addicted to them, they definitely have bad repercussions.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, right? It's, I think, in anything in life, any business, it's good to be transparent, open, honest, and education is definitely what will continue to spread this message. That is a fact. I know that. Where can people find your amazing product?
So, as I said, we're in about 10,000 stores across the U.S., mainly, you know, convenience stores, 7-Eleven, what have you. Natural grocery, liquor stores, head shops, that type of stuff. And then we're also sold online at botanictonics.com.
I love that. JW, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, talk some about your story, this amazing product that you've created, and I look forward to the future. And I know that, you know, this is my first time meeting you, but if you say that you're going to spread Kava across the world, you're going to fucking do it, man. You're going to do. I'm so impressed with what you have done in a very short period of time. And I know you have done a lot in your life, but it's really great to hear.
You know, this is one of these things that you were talking about earlier about, you know, chance meetings, or this is kind of the same thing, that the right people showed up at the right time to make things happen.
Yeah.
It's always neat when that happens, because it's almost, you get this feeling like the world is, you know, wants this to happen, or it's
Yes.
meant to be. And I've especially seen that with this drive for Kava, this larger scale. I mean, the people that have shown up through really weird connections around the world is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's not like I'm pushing it. It's like it's pulling me. And that makes me feel like, it's meant to be.
Absolutely.
And it's just, it's exciting and fun.
I love it.
Like an adventure.
That's life, right?
Yeah.
It should be an adventure.
Yeah.
You should wake up every day.
No wonder I get up at 3.
I know. JW, thank you so much.
You bet.
Feel free. Have a good night, people. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thank you.
Boom! JW, come here, man.
That was good. Yeah.
Bring it in.